Mandla Ndlovu has been elected as the new provincial chairperson of the ANC in Mpumalanga, securing more than 440 votes. Speedy Mashilo receives 505 votes, making him the Deputy Chairperson. Muzi Chirwa was elected as the Secretary General, while Lindiwe Ntshalintshali was elected as his deputy. The conference has been marred by court cases and allegations that the proceedings leading up to the conference were not free and fair. Let's now touch base with our reporters Mweli, Masilela and Mbali Thethani, who have been following the story for us. Mweli, let's start with you. You are with the newly elected chairperson.
Yes, indeed, Mandla Ndlovu has been newly elected as the chairperson of the province. We know that this is a position that has been vacant since the now deputy president of the ANC and the country, David Mabuza, was elected to national office for that position of deputy president. And now the ANC here, the delegates, elected Mandla Ndlovu, who is a former secretary of the ANC under David Mabuza, and also the person who was also running for this position, because we know that it was a two-horse race, like Indonesia. He is also a former secretary of the ANC in the province, but then Mandla Ndlovu emerged victorious, obtaining more than 400 votes, while like Indonesia obtained more than 200 votes. But let's speak to Mandla Ndlovu, the man who has just been elected the new chairperson of this province. Well, I would like to believe that already you've got a huge task ahead, because you came into this conference divided as members of the ANC in this province, isn't it?
I don't understand why you're assuming that we came to this provincial conference divided. I know that in most cases people will think that we are divided when we have various lobbying teams, when we prepare for conferences. When you go to conferences, we'll have lobbying teams. And it's healthy for our democracy to have different views. What will be wrong is that if on Sunday, when we close the conference, we continue to have people that are calling themselves Focus, Ngri or RMT, there will be a faction. But now they are not faction, they are lobbying team as we prepare for the provincial conference.
As the new chairperson, what will be your key priorities, considering the fact that already we've got some members of the ANC who have been going to court to try and interdictate this conference? We've had violent branch general meetings, especially pre the 2021 local government elections. What would you say are the key priorities as you assume your responsibilities?
You must know that as an organization at a certain stage, we thought that we must reach 1 million membership. And some of those comrades that are coming to the ANC today, they've got their own interest, not the main interest of the organization. So we must build also their political consciousness. So that is what we are going to prioritize, so that people will understand that we have got one task in this organization. We have got one interest, and the interest is to build on this country, is to make sure that our people have got a better life, not our own better life. What is very important is to understand that our voters' role is also dominated by the youth, that they don't have this history with apartheid. So this campaign that always our comrades are promoting, that we have got history, others are starting from 1969, you go say 1970, people want a better life. They are saying, some of them, that between the ANC and the better life, they want a better life. So it will be better for us if we don't want our people to walk away from us. We give them a better life. We give them better services. They want quality education. They want water. So we're going to prioritize these basic necessities that our people want.
All right, that is Mandla Ndlovu. Thank you for talking to us. He is the newly elected chairperson of the ANC in the province. Well, making some commitments to say that as much as there were lobby groups, they are hoping that as the newly elected leadership comes Sunday, those lobby groups will no longer exist, and they'll be together as one, as members of the ANC in the province. Kahle.
Thank you, Mweli. That's Mweli speaking to the newly elected chairperson of the PEC in Mpumalanga. Mbali, now over to you. What proceedings are happening on your end of the conference?
Well, of course, so we do know that just before this conference kicked off, it was indeed marred by some court battles. So at the same time, we know that this province also found itself very divided, and we saw this conference being postponed a number of times. But just to give us a clear insight in terms of the ANC's court challenges, but at the same time to talk to how the conference is going so far. Well, Dakota, we've seen that this province has managed to at least now elect its top 5. You must be delighted as an NEC deployee.
Yes, thank you very much. It has been very hectic for us. We are happy that we are registering progress in relations to the Mpumalanga provincial conference. So far, the top 5 has been elected, and now we're about to go in to nominate the additional members. Immediately once additional members are nominated, we'll then break for commissions today, and tomorrow morning commissions will proceed. But during the commissions, members will be allowed to vote for the additional members. And then tomorrow, once we are done with the voting, counting will be done immediately. And tomorrow in the afternoon, the results of the additional members will be announced. The commission will also be concluding their work, and will have draft conference resolutions which will be tabled to the new PEC for adoption.
Well, you have successfully voted in a top 5, but there is indeed a court challenge. Of course, we know that just before this conference started, there was an issue around questioning whether the NWC had the powers to indeed conduct and form a PTT in this province. At the same time, there is another court challenge, Dakota, saying that some branches who are here illegally. What does the ANC make of these court challenges? Because these court challenges also threaten the outcome of this conference, because this outcomes of today, it can be nullified.
Look, it is actually not true that the National Working Committee did not have the authority to appoint a PTT. The National Working Committee, in terms of the constitution of the ANC, they are responsible for the day-to-day running of the ANC through all its structures in the country. The NEC sits once in a quarter. In between NEC meeting, the NWC can make decisions, and upon those decisions are made, they get implemented, and the only thing that will be left is for the National Executive Committee to ratify those particular decisions. And that is the case with the Mpumalanga PTT as well as with the Eastern Cape PTT. The NWC implemented the work, and the NEC ratified it, because you would know the reason why we have to implement as the National Working Committee is that we have a classical case, an example of a case law of the Ramakatsa versus Makashule case of the Free State, wherein a PEC whose mandate lapsed was allowed to convene conference and was allowed to launch regions and branches. And the court has since nullified that particular PEC in 2012. Now, we do not want history to repeat itself, or for us as ANC to look like Balukas who don't know the rule of law, because there's a case law similar to that, and we had to decide immediately as the National Working Committee to allow for the establishment of a PTT in the Eastern Cape and in Mpumalanga, so that we can have interim structures as directed by the court in a case of 2012 between Ramakatsa and Ace Makashule. And that's what basically we did. And anybody who feels that the NWC did not have the power, it's making a mistake, because the NEC has since ratified that particular decision of the NWC, and now it stands. It's a decision of the NEC.
There are threats that this conference can be nullified by a court. What is your reaction as the ANC?
Look, I would not want to second guess administrators of law and justice. You know, that is the work of the judiciary to arbitrate in any dispute in society, including in the ANC. So as it is now, as the ANC will await the summons for us to appear in court, if that moment arises, and as the ANC, we will defend our case to ensure that we defend the integrity, the reputation, and the work of the ANC it puts in preparing for such conferences. And that's basically what we're going to do. We respect those members' rights to bring a case against us for any grievance they have, but we are not going to leave it to chance. We are going to defend the African National Congress.
Lastly, Mandla Ndlovu has been appointed and elected officially as a treasurer. He has stepped aside. What are the rules in terms of somebody who's facing criminal charges who can still be elected into a position if they are still out and they've stepped aside?
Look, step aside so far, it does not forbid members from standing for positions. So far, we have a case study of the regional chair of Emalahleni region in KwaZulu-Natal, who was elected as a regional chair through a letter, and that was accepted by the PC of KwaZulu-Natal. It was accepted by the NEC. And I don't think it's different with Mandla Ndlovu. For him, having placed a letter before conference, and it was accepted, and members felt that he must be the provincial treasurer, despite the fact that he has stepped aside, and he remained to have stepped aside even now, because there's nothing that has changed. But what has changed is that he was elected as the provincial treasurer. So it's a matter that still, as the NEC, we still have to look at when we sharpen or when we review our step-aside rules.
Thank you very much. Of course, that is Dakota Lefoete. He is an NEC member and he is an NEC deployee here. As you can see, Katlego, that a number of the delegates here are making their way inside the plenary. They are indeed tasked with the issue around nominating at least 30 members from branches who will then form part of the PEC. And of course, they will then represent this party collectively as 35 members of the ANC in Mpumalanga.
Thank you, Mbali. That is Mbali Thethani, as well as Mweli Masilela, who is out in Mpumalanga at the ANC conference, giving us the proceedings of the three-day conference, as now we're about to see the additional members being brought into the